Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing a room called CMSpit on TryHackMe. So let's have a look at the nmap scan to start things off. So if I scroll up to the top, we can see added a service version scan with common scripts with an aggressive tag, and we can see we get two ports open, port 22 which is SSH and port 80 which is HTTP. So you can see we have a web server and we have a SSH server service running. So let's have a look at the website first. So if you just go to port 80 straight up, we can see it says please authenticate and it says cockpit. That's the first thing we need to have a look at as well. That's the name of the CMS, cockpit. And if you look at the version, we can just look at the page source and it should hopefully tell us a version. So you can see here it tells us the version. I'll zoom in a bit as well so you can see. You can say 0.11.1. And if we look up for some CVEs for that, so it's cockpit, I think it's a 0.11.1 CVE. You can see exploit DB comes up as one of the first results. And that's the one I used. So it will tell us what path does allow for user enumeration. So if we go back to here, go back to the exploit, and if we scroll down for a bit, we can see it says URL. It's just doing a pretty much a request to this endpoint here to reset a password. Actually, that's password reset. He has to change the password, but the path that allows user enumeration, if you go here quickly, it should say it here, and this tells us the action that checks if the user exists. And if you want to know what path allows you to reset passwords, it's right here. So let's download this first things to start things off with. So let's just download this on exploit.db, and we got it downloaded. So if we do there works on Python, well, on Linux weirdly enough on Kali. So if we don't know what we do, we'll just press enter and it'll tell us -u and the URL. So if you do -u, put in the IP address of our host. So I'm just gonna grab the IP, put it in, and we can see we get 4 users. And it can say how many users can you get from the enumeration attack and compromise this Skiddy's email address. So let's get Skiddy and let's get his email. Press enter. We can see we get Skiddy's email is right here. TryHackMe.fakemail. So if we do Y, we can reset the password for this user, and we can see we got it to reset to this random bunch of characters, which is a pretty secure password, but not one that you want to give to the attackers. So if we grab this password and put it into the login form to log in, we should hopefully be able to authenticate, and it says welcome back, which is a good sign. So this is when I got into my first rabbit hole. We can see this user is an admin, but one thing that took me a while to figure out is if we go to Finder, we can see all these things here. But before I forget, it wants us to say what is the web flag. So if we go back to the website and we click web flag, the PHP file, so we can see this is the web flag right here, and it will tell us. So that's the web flag, and compromise and enumerate the databases installed on the server. This is where I got a bit messed up. So if I go back and click backwards, if I go to storage, we'll see a bunch of SQL-like database files. I think if it's in database, I downloaded these files and I spent ages just trying to think what have I done wrong, because I thought this was the database file that we need to have a look at, but turns out you better just get a reverse shell. It took me a while to figure this out. So if we click, I think that this is the upload button, we can upload a file and we can see this web server support .php file extensions. So if I go to revshells.com, so if we go revshells.com, I'll just type in revshells, this should come up as the first result. This website's really good for reverse shells. And now I've typed in PHP. All I would do is just type in PHP here, click. This will be your .0 IP address, your OpenVPN IP, and this is the port that you'll be using. Just make sure it's a valid port. I use 4848 just for fun. So if I do nano rev.php, copy this in, and if you scroll back up, we can see that's my IP, and that's the port I'm going to be using 4848. So if I do X and Y, and before I forget, we need to do a netcat listener, so this will be listening on the port 4848. So let's get back onto the website and let's click on the upload button. So let's upload a file. We'll want to upload the file into my download directory. So if we click open, we should hopefully have this appear. So if we just navigate to rev.php, it should hopefully give us a reverse shell. And the fact that this is hanging is a good sign. Shows me that I'm getting a reverse connection back to the server. And we can see straight away we get a connection back. So if I cat tty, this will give me a more stable shell to run my scripts. Well, to the attacking, to the victim, the machine, because we haven't got an interactive shell right now, and this will give us a more interactive shell. So if we go to home, ls, cd stux, and if we try a cat user.txt, we cannot concatenate it. So if we do ls.la, we can see that, let's see, user.txt, we don't even have well, it's not even possible for us to read or write to it or execute it. But if we look here, this is Mango. This is like a MongoDB file, and it's a JS file as well, JavaScript. And it says compromise the machine and enumerate collections in the document database install server. What is the database? What's the flag in the database? So if we cut this out, whoops, wrong thing. We want to cut this out here. We can see it's a hidden file with the dot extension, which it tries to hide it by default. But we were smart to have a look for everything, even the hidden things. That's pretty weird. We can't really actually wrong thing. This is interesting, but we can see we can't. It has nothing inside of it. But if we do db.shell, we can see this is not a normal thing. You normally see all these things here are pretty normal, but this mango makes me think it's MongoDB, and this db.shell is pretty interesting. Let's have a look at this. We can see this is our database flag as well. So if we look here, this is the database flag for the server, and we can see we get some credentials. So if we do switch user and we switch to Stux and we just copy and paste this password in, we should be able to get in as this user. You don't really want to leave your passwords lying down, well, down plain text. Anyone can just read them. So if we cat user.txt, we should be able to read it, and we can. So it says what is the CVE number for the vulnerability affecting the binary assigned to the user. So it's an SUID binary, it looks like to be, or some special pseudo binary that we can use. So we can use the exfil tool as root, which is pretty interesting. And if we and to check what version will it affect, what vulnerability affects this specific version, we can just do -ver for version, and we can see it's version 12. And if we do, I'm going to close up rev shells, and I'll go back and copy this. We'll put this into a browser and we'll type in CVE. And this should hopefully give us a CVE version. And we can see straight away we get one, which is a good sign. So just put that in here, and I think that's right, CVE, yes it is. And it says what utility is used to make the POC. I'll get back to this soon. Actually, I'll just do it right now. I'll show you how to do it right now. So if we do exfil tool, CVE, utility, it should show us some utility off. Yeah, this is that DUV file here, this file extension, and it took me a while to figure this out, like a really long time, because this was the most like confusing bit ever. I was trying to figure out what is this DUV file. But turns out if you, I don't think it was in here, but it was somewhere else. I figured out that it was DUV utility. It took me a while to figure it out. It's DVU utility, and I think somewhere I found that I said DUV make, which is what I put in here, well, on the TryHackMe file. But it doesn't matter. So we'll try to Privesk now, since we know we have a SUID that is vulnerable. And exfil tool, if you don't know, is you can read metadata of files, which is really good. So we might be able to read. We might actually be able to read the root.txt file without being a root. So if I go to GTFO bins first thing, because you can see right here, root, no password. So if I just do sudo, yeah, I could just use sudo, and if I get this quickly again. Exfil tool. And if you click sudo here, it will tell us something. So this is the file, the local file to write, and this is the input data. So pretty much this can be a file that we can make up. So we can see this, we're in home.stux. So if we do sudo exfil tool, and let's copy this bit here, file name. So this will be the L file, the local file that we'll be creating. So if I just click, well, just type, say root.txt, and we want to read the actual root.txt here, and if we enter that, it should hopefully work. And this is the image file has been updated. We do cat root.txt, we should have the root flag. And I think that's all of it done.